Good morning, West Thai. Today is April 7, 2017, and you're watching WHS International News. Let's return to our main story this week.
That's right. Our main story this week has to do with the civil war that Syria finds itself entrenched in as of the last few years.
For viewers just tuning in, reports of the Syrian civil war reached the outside world in March of 2011 when violence broke out in the city of Dara. Security forces opened fire on a group of teenagers for vandalizing property with political graffiti. The escalating conflict resulting from the anti-Bashir al-Assad graffiti resulted in dozens of deaths and countless more injured in the aftermath. Here's a video.
بالمدرسة استمينا وجبنا على المطبخ كتبنا بالمدرسة استمينا وجبنا على المطبخ كتبنا جاك الدورة يا دكتور على حياة المدرسة بوصل كهرباء يفوتوك على الحمام مي الدنيا كله مي وهاي تلاقي فاتحين عليك الدوش بالكهرباء وصل كهرباء ظهره طلعت فاجأت المظاهرات وقواف يعني خربانة الدنيا كلها ما بعرف ليش انبسطنا انه كل اهل درعا قايمة بس ما كانش عن انه نعرف انه بده يصير قواص وبده يصير دمار وبده يصير هيك يعني
الله اكبر الله اكبر الله اكبر.
The US soon became involved in the situation around August 2011 when they imposed economic sanctions on Syria. The United States also barred any transactions between them and called for Assad's resignation.
During 2012, the fighting spread to Aleppo, a major Syrian city and commercial hub. United States President Barack Obama warned Syria publicly that chemical attacks are a red line, which if crossed, would force him to reconsider the United States' policy of non-interference in the country's war. However, over the next year, there will be 2 gas attacks that draw condemnation from the international community.
In the year 2013, the number of civilian deaths in Syria grew to 70,000. The war gained international attention when the US called out Syria on its use of chemical weapons, and with the UN opening an investigation against the country after numerous chemical attacks have been reported. The UN notified Syria to reduce their stockpile of chemical weapons, resulting in Syria signing on to the Chemical Weapons Convention. This prohibited them from producing, stockpiling, or using chemical weapons. Here are some images captured over the course of what is, by all accounts, a terrible year for Syrian citizens.
In June of 2014, the OPCW, Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, announces that it has removed all of the Syrian government's chemical weapons. However, government opposition maintains that Assad's regime has a chemical weapons stockpile still hidden.
Late in the new year of 2015, Assad was accused of using chemical weapons against civilian opposition. These weapons included deadly chlorine gas. Assad denied any such accusations. Shortly following, in September, Russia officially entered the conflict. They commanded multiple bombing attacks against Assad's opponents, targeting homes and civilian targets. The Pentagon commented during the same month, stating that Russia is taking sides with Syria in the fight against ISIS.
In March of the following year, Russia began to withdraw their forces, having achieved their goal of helping the Syrian government reclaim some territory back from the terrorists. By September, airstrikes in Syria resulted in the deaths of 23 people, 9 of which were children. Over the course of a few weeks, Aleppo received more than 200 airstrikes, resulting in a huge death toll. Now we go to our correspondent, Anirudh Eranki, on the ground in Syria. Anirudh is coming to us from the town of Ch7 G6 in the rebel-held Idlib province, where a horrifying chemical attack has just taken place. Anirudh, what is the situation like over there?
Well, Ritvik, the situation is quite grim here in Syria. The attack took place 3 days ago, on the 4th of April, in the town of Ch7 G6 in rebel-held Idlib province. Witnesses claim the attack was carried out by Russian or Syrian jets, but both Moscow and Damascus deny the allegations. The victims show symptoms consistent with nerve gas attacks, including convulsions and foaming at the mouth. At least 58 people were killed. Events escalated yesterday on the 6th, when the United States fired a barrage of cruise missiles at the military base where the attack was believed to originate. U.S. President Donald Trump, who campaigned as an isolationist and a populist, defends the attack even though it directly opposes to the claimed policy, calling it a vital national security interest of the United States.
Well, Anirudh, as you said, the situation in Syria is very grim right now, not to mention the intervention on behalf of the US. How are your surroundings? What do you see around you?
Well, I'm witnessing some construction around me, Roy. There isn't too much, as these people don't have many resources to work with at this time, but I've walked around for a while, and I've also noticed the occasional damaged building. I suspect that they're leftover damages from the violence that has ripped at the country for the last several years.
Talk to us about the possible ramifications of the events of the past few days.
Well, previously the United States has been more or less neutral in terms of violence on this particular conflict. But now, President Trump has taken action and is actively promoting violence and potential future conflicts through his action of deploying 59 Tomahawk missiles directed at the Syrian airbase. This could have negative effects on the peace process and the damage to the reputation of the U.S. as only acting out of necessity in this conflict.
Well, considering the fact that President Trump rarely changes his own stance when making his decisions, it'll be hard to see Syria enter peaceful terms with the US in the future.
Yes, definitely, Roy. This has been Anirudh Eranki with cameraman Phelps.
Thank you, Ani. And back to you, Ritvik.
Thank you for tuning in, viewers, and be sure to drop back in for our next segment on the Senate filibuster after the break.